everyone. Welcome to Trace the Trade, the podcast by DiMuto, where we want to explore the critical shifts in global agri-food trade and the role of technology in building a more sustainable, transparent, and efficient future. So my name is Athena, and in this series, we're cutting through the noise to discuss the real challenges and innovations shaping global food supply chains. So for our very first episode, we're tackling the future of agri-food trade. And there's no better person to kick off this conversation with Gary Loh, CEO and founder of DiMuto. So Gary, welcome. So let's start with a fundamental truth. So you mentioned that data isn't just a byproduct of trade. It's the foundation for smarter decisions and scalable growth. So your journey to building DiMuto was a testament to that. So can you please take us back to how it all started?
Well, first of all, Tina, thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be on your podcast. And like you said, it's been a very long journey, and I just realized that this journey has been 6 years. So it's been 6 years since we started DiMuto. And like you said, data is always the foundation of any decision maker. But it's actually been one of the most difficult sector or industry for the agriculture to get any form of data, because fundamentally we have been operating in silos. That means the people who grow, the people who pack, the people who ship, the people who receive, and the people who sell seems to have all their various information in all different systems. So when I first started thinking about creating DiMuto, it was really a journey where it came from the past, where I was actually a banker. It started in my career where I was actually doing a lot of special deals in the stock market, looking at different industry, and then happened to set up my own family office where I invested in a company where we were actually operating farms, growing about 1,400 hectares of Fuji apples in China. And then we were going at 44,000 metric ton of cold rooms and packing house. And we were selling to 22,000 point of sales. Now, managing a company like this really made me realize how ancient and antiquated this industry is, because we were all doing it manual. And this is really the journey of what DiMuto was coming out. If we could basically have the different views shared and seen across a platform where information is basically not siloed, then as a decision maker myself, it will allow us to basically be able to see the industry in a different light. And that's what DiMuto is trying to redefine, using the transactions that we are actually seeing and put that data in a way that we can now be able to see it visibly. And when I say visible, I really mean being able to see something before you even ship it. So this is kind of like the foundation of where DiMuto is, and it really is trying to transform something that I used to manage, I like to say blindly, and creating a company that in the land of the blind, we became a one-eyed king.
That's such a powerful origin story, Gary. So what stands out is that DiMuto wasn't just built to solve one problem. You mentioned it's created to set a new standard in the industry. So a lot of companies actually these days, they treat data as an afterthought. But for you, data is central to every decision. So why is that approach so critical for you?
Yeah, first of all, I think everyone would love to have the data. But most of us operate in an environment because of the fact that it's siloed. We don't have that data. And looking at it from an industry player myself, when I was talking to technology companies, they all were trying to find a solution for the companies operating in all the different silos. So actually, in many ways, it was never connected. So for me, the fundamental truth of why we think data is so important is really all of us want it, but no one is going to give it for free. And no one's going to give it to you. So I guess from that basis, DiMuto was set up to ensure that how can we get the data on our own? And the only way we can data be collected, seen, and made visible to all the stakeholders is that if we drive the trades ourselves, right? So it's not an easy approach. And I think it's not the most common approach where people think, I want data, so I get it from the different silo players. But no one's going to give it to you, and it's not going to be for free. So I think the economic incentive is that if you could drive the orders to the pack house, to the growers, And when you have orders and the economic incentives are aligned, then actually having the data on the platform is really what we will be able to make better decisions. And that's sort of like how DiMuto has been set up for. And that's the reason why data for us is really the foundation of everything we do.
Interesting. So at the moment, the global food supply chain as we know is at a turning point. So there's a lot of increasing regulations. There's a lot of rising consumer expectations and climate-related disruptions as well. So at this point, businesses can't afford to rely on outdated systems. So what do you think is driving this shift, and why do you believe that technology is the way forward?
Well, having been in this industry for 10 years, right, we've been really running a lot of businesses in either old systems or really the best systems we have was using pen and paper. And we've been doing it, and because it's not broken, we don't really want to fix it. But like you said, the environment has changed. It's the climate change. COVID, for example, really woke all of us up. Having the ability not to be disrupted in your supply chain, wanting to do demand forecasts, even supply forecasts, an alignment of actually understanding what's going on in the market, and also the understanding of whether any of this supplier is actually certified or not certified. So this is really something that we always wanted to know, but the problem is we weren't able to find something that could put this information together. So technology changes this. When we look at it, DiMuto sort of like put it all together. There's no one technology that can fix all. So what we had to do from the ground up was to build it right from the IoT devices that allows us to see what was being packed, putting it onto the cloud so that we can actually put it in such a way where the database is managed on the cloud. Then putting onto a blockchain, which I call it the fancy Excel spreadsheet, in a way where it can be shared between each of us. And then putting all this information on an AI system that can actually harness that data. If you look at it from technology, this can actually be achieved because now you are actually using technology that used to be rather expensive, but today it really is quite affordable. And integrating them, we're actually able to be holistic in the way we actually put data together, right? So it's a very holistic data strategy. At the same time, we're also very focused on ensuring that this is about an ecosystem business model. So the economic incentives are aligned. So for us, I think looking at how technology today and building it up from scratch, and it's coming from someone who is actually from the trade, building it for the trade, right? So I think that really changes how the application of technology is being used for me. And I think that's why I think that technology is really the basis of how we can redefine agri-trade.
Yeah, you mentioned blockchain and AI. I think at present, they're no longer just buzzwords. So they're becoming much more essential to how food moves across borders and in even other different industries. So can you walk us through, so how do these technologies, how do they create trust, efficiency, and security in the global food supply chain?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for a lot of people, when they hear the word blockchain, it used to be a buzzword. And frankly, it's not the next best thing to slice bread. It really is an Excel spreadsheet that's a lot fancier. But more importantly, what it does is to allow us to put a data into an Excel spreadsheet that's not being able to be changed, so it's immutable. So I think that's really the reason why we wanted to use the blockchain. It really allows us to not be questioned of the data that we have. So for example, it is not the aim of DiMuto's platform to prevent the error. If anything, it allows us to establish where the error is. And if you have data that people question because you can change that data, then I think you're going to basically meet a fundamental problem, right? Because no one really trusts the data. So putting it on a blockchain sort of like erase that trust factor. Then when you add an AI to it, it allows us to apply certain standards that's universal. And let me give you an example. For example, we have done a product, PQAI, which allows us to use an AI to determine the color, a blemish, the size, right? And if you say that this is what an AI can do, the AI will be able to judge that color, the size, and the blemish whether it's at a packing house, pre-shipment, whether it's along the way, post-shipment, or even when it's at the retail store, or even when it's at the consumer, right? So there is a certain standards that we can now accept, because fundamental in our industry, sometimes it's very funny when you see what a Mexican eye sees green and what someone in the China sees green, they don't see the same green, right? Yeah. So this is something that where we think the use of AI has been able to really propel, first, the data not being questioned because we trust that data. Now you can enhance that data by giving certain standards that everybody actually understands. So that's, I think, how we build upon blockchain and AI.
So I know you're addressing a very traditional industry. So I'm sure there were a lot of sort of pushbacks on these sort of new technologies and things like that. So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about blockchain and AI in the agri-food trade?
First of all, I think most people don't really understand the use of blockchain. And I think most people don't really understand the word AI either, because this is just probably too much of a buzzword, like you said earlier. So I think we just want to take this away and just say, these are just operating systems that allow us to get the outcome that we want. And I think this is where the thought that blockchain is a very complicated, a lot of tokens, crypto. Actually, to us, the way we've used blockchain, it's just, like I said, an Excel spreadsheet that is immutable. And the AI, it really is about a large language model or a general AI that allows us to actually enhance the data that we have. So if you think the misconception is most people just by hearing those few words sort of like got shy away or just say, look, this is just a lot of buzzwords. But if you really look at the applications of it, having something that is immutable allows us to put in the information and it cannot be changed. And let me give you an example. If you say you packed this product today at this time, and this was the spec you packed, once you put it up there, you can't change it, right? And then when you send someone a document, you also can't change it and say, oh, sorry, I sent you the wrong document. If a mistake was made, you can't erase that mistake. You just have to show what was the new information that's correct, that's been set up. Then the other part of what we use AI for is to really make sure that we allow ourselves to be able to tap the data that's actually from growing and what was being packed, what was being shipped, what was being received, and even the consumer feedback is now put into a database that can actually be extracted. Now, in the past, what I had a production team, I have a shipping team, I have a document team, I have a sales team, a finance team, an operation team. Now, having all these different teams to try to communicate with one another and sharing those information, I think that was where the difficulty is. And having this system that we have built for the AI, it allows us to integrate it on a platform and be able to see it in a way that was never previously possible.
Yeah, I think currently the industry thinks of AI and all these technologies as more of like a reactive solution to their problems. And the way you're explaining it to me, it's more of like how it can become a blueprint for the future of trade. So let's move on and make something more tangible. So I understand that DiMuto has received a 500% year-on-year growth. So can you share a real-world example of how DiMuto has leveraged this digital ecosystem to achieve that remarkable growth it has experienced so far?
Yes, I think we've been first of all, very fortunate. DiMuto was built on the foundation of a team group, right? I think we brought a lot of like-minded individuals to come in to join DiMuto. And I think really, when you think about it, it really is about the purpose that we are in. I think we know that the agri-trade is the least digitized trade, and a lot of stakeholders are actually marginalized because the information flow isn't there. So first of all, we built a great team. Now, to move forward, we all know that the growth for this 500% and seeing it still come mainly from the marketplace. And this has actually been a very deliberate part for us. We know that building a wonderful platform with all the wonderful technology and expect data to be populated is not going to happen overnight. So where do we get our data then? So we have actually set up a private marketplace where we drive our own labels, and it comes with all this technology. And this point, we're able to collect close to 3,400 data points in a trade for every single trade contract. Now, I think this is a very powerful testament of how we've been able to ensure that we can deliver something that has the quality check before you even ship it. Because in the past, the way we operate our sales on our trade in our business, it's almost like a jack-in-the-box approach. You don't know what you get until the day you open it and when you receive it. But I think the way we have grown our marketplace with the products that we've been able to deliver is imagine that you now actually know what's being packed inside the box before you even close it. And then actually when you open it, you have the ability to verify that very same box to the box that was packed. And I think that changes the game. And then when you bring that value, for example, to buyers, to our distributors, this allows them to actually reduce the uncertainty. They will not have that issues on claims. Quality has always been one of the factors that we see our payments actually being delayed because of this dispute going on. So I think we have reduced a lot of that food waste, things that is basically claims. But on the reverse side, you are now allowing our growers and our packers to actually see the information immediately when actually it's being sent. Because in the previous example, our business was run in such a way that once it leaves the pack house, the packers don't really know what's going on. And they just have to receive emails and feedback. And then sometimes they get claims without really knowing what exactly happened. But for the packers now, they now have that ability to really understand what went wrong and then actually to be able to pinpoint and improve. So this I think has changed the game significantly. And that's kind of like you see the results of why we're growing at the kind of pace that we're growing.
Yeah, I think from what you've mentioned, it's what makes DiMuto different. So you guys are using data and technology to redefine the way that global trade operates in a more sustainable and more efficient manner. So from what I've seen, the team at DiMuto has always been striving to lead innovation and transformation in the global agri-trade. And you mentioned something about working on fully integrated digital platform and payments. So even incorporating AI into these platforms. So can you please share more about that?
Yeah, that's a great question because in the basis of how we look at trade, all right, we always see that trade is always about the movement of goods and the movement of money and backwards. And actually, like I always say, it's actually the two sides of the same coin. So the value of that trade is actually being able to know that what is it that you buy, what was delivered and the quality that was delivered, and most importantly, to be able to see how is the payment made. So we are very happy to say that we have moved towards a fintech mindset of ensuring that payment is fully integrated into the platform. So with these payments being integrated, that means you know when the goods is being delivered and when we ship the goods and it's being received and payment is supposed to be due, you will see payment being made on our platform and it goes into digital wallets. So it's almost instantaneously received. For example, someone in Mexico receiving something that's actually been sent in the US, and it will be from our digital wallet to their digital wallet instantly. Now, this takes away a big problem in our trade, in agri-trade, where when you use the traditional banking system, it allows us to actually get into what we call the banking black hole, right? Where you say you send it from Singapore and it, for example, is sent to Mexico, and then their Mexico bank says they have not received it yet. Then when that delay happens, a lot of things will actually snowball. For example, they will not release the documents and you end up having to keep the container at dock. Now, any delays at dock is going to basically affect the quality of the goods. So this is kind of like making sure that we incorporate our payment system to our integrated platform changes the game. But more importantly, it also changes the game significantly because we now add an AI component to it to ensure that we can actually see the quality of the trade. For example, we now be able to say the trade health of the trade. For example, if there's a trading between avocados between a supplier from Mexico and a supplier in China, a buyer in China, now we need to see whether the payment term was correct, was the timing good, was the quality delivered on time. Then this AI allows us to actually calculate the probability of a default for that trade contract. Now, as a banker, this changes risk. We have mitigated risk to a point that you now know what was packed, you now know what was delivered, you know the quality that was accepted, and then payment is due. And then now you know that if you want to do any form of insurance, any form of financing, this integrated platform that we have allows us to do certain insights that was previously never possible. And that's sort of the reason why in DiMuto we created 3 different pillars. We have one for the technology, one for the marketplace, and then one for the financial services.
Great. So it sounds like DiMuto has its eye on the future with all of these interesting innovations. So let's look ahead. So where do you see the biggest transformations that are happening in agri-food trade over the next few years? And how will DiMuto continue to evolve in response to these arising new trends and new transformations as well?
Yeah, I think the innovations are going to continue, right? I think we're going to learn as we go along the way. And now that we have a different way of approaching the trade and having the kind of 3,400 data sets, the ability to actually have a agentic AI, as we call it, which is a JI, an AI that literally becomes almost like an inbuilt COO, where you can ask the questions and they will be able to mine the data and then give you a sort of like a chat GPT answers to it. So I think the speed of information, the clarity, the ability to do that harnessing of this data, we are now changing where I think, more importantly, the business model has to be, which is not one that is reactive, but one that can be predictive. So I think going forward for DiMuto, it really is to be ensuring that we can now use this data sets that we have, the traits that we're generating, to be moving towards one that is more predictive, one that enhances our ability to forecast, so that that information of how much we grow, where we grow, who we sell to, that reduces a lot of the issues. And then I guess in the end of the day, for us, our purpose and our existence still come back to be a positive impact to the earth, right? And to our world and to the society that we live in. I think for all of us in DiMuto, it really is to ensure that we want to build a company that allows us to basically be innovative, able to transform with the industry, but more importantly, have a very positive impact to the world that we're operating in.
Thank you, Gary. So for our last question, so let's address the industry leaders that are tuning into this podcast. So for the industry leaders that are navigating today's agri-food landscape, so what is the key takeaway you want them to understand from this episode?
Well, I think that's again great question, and I think for the audience, if I would look at it from a business owner perspective, if I were to be a grower and a packer, I think we would like to say that, you know, there are companies like ours that works with you to ensure that we're able to bring the quality products to markets. And I think that's one big factor that we bring in the marketplace that we do, and we apply the technology right up front. The next thing, of course, is to have access to capital, and of course, access to new markets is also 2 key value that we bring to the position. Then for the distributors and logistics players, I think this information of where you know where things are for the logistics team, well, it's not just about where the things are, but the quality of the things when they're inside the container or when they are inside the pallet, right? So these are the kind of information that we can share. And it allows actually for them to be a much integrated part of being part of what the fresh produce industry is. For distributors, I think having to see the information about what's going on, especially whether is it too much rain or too much weather issues that is happening at the ground, that the harvest will be affected, or the harvest was so good that this is going to affect the pricing on the market. Those are the kind of information that, you know, working with someone like us would be a great way to actually share that information. But more importantly, for retailers, and as they approach towards the market, I think the consumers today don't only just want traceability and visibility, but I think most of us are getting more budget conscious as well. I think we're a bit more worried about it. We want quality, but yet we want to make sure that the price that we're paying is not going up at the pace that it's been going up for the past 5 years. So I think this is where someone like DiMuto with our private labels already been established. This would basically assist the buying team in the retails and distributors to be able to actually have that information at their fingertips, and this will actually enhance the way they can actually operate. So really hope that we can actually get interest in this area, and more importantly, I've always said that the message has always been that you can't force, you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to drink.
Yeah.
So really, at DiMuto, we hope that by doing the trades that we have done, the kind of products that we have done, and the kind of financing that we have done, we hope that we can actually lead the way by showing that this will be the benefit to all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary. This has been a great discussion. So we've explored how data is the next frontier of agri-food trade and how DiMuto is redefining the global trade by making data this foundation. So this is just the beginning, guys. So in the upcoming episodes, we'll dive into trade financing, AI-powered food safety, and sustainability in global sourcing. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you.